In 2017, a friend of George Clooney went on MSNBC and he told a story about years earlier where Clooney had gathered 14 of his closest friends and he'd given them each $1 million in cash in a suitcase. Clooney has never really confirmed or denied doing this until recently. Okay, I was scrolling through my Apple News app and this headline popped up and I saw an interview in GQ magazine where he tells the story. And honestly, it's hard not to be intrigued, right? Because who does that? Not just one friend, but 14 of their friends, $1 million. So Clooney says that him and his wife had just met, but they weren't dating at all. And he says, I was a single guy and all of us were aging. I was 52 or something. Most of his friends were older than him. And the movie Gravity had just come out. Now, they thought it was going to be a flop. He says they didn't want to pay us. And so they made a deal to give them percentages of the movie, which turned out to be a very good deal. And so he had some money. Interestingly enough, this isn't nearly as much as he has now because his biggest financial windfall came from the $1 billion sale of Casamigos, the tequila company that he started with another friend. Okay, but that wouldn't happen until years after this story. He didn't sell $1 billion company when he decided to do this, okay? But he had some money, and so in 2013, he was still single. He didn't have a family. He didn't have any real idea of whether or not he'd have a family someday. And he says, I thought, what I do have are these guys who've all over a period of 35 years helped me in one way or another. I've slept on their couches. When I was broke, they loaned me money. They've helped me when I needed help over the years, and I've helped them. And we're all really good friends. We're family. And I thought, without them, I don't have any of this. And we're all really close. And, so I just thought, well, if I got hit by a bus, they're in the will. So why am I waiting to get hit by a bus? The next step was, how do I lay hands on $14 million in cash? I mean, how do you do that, right? And so he found this spot in downtown Los Angeles in an undisclosed location. And there's this place you can go, he says, where they have giant pallets of cash. And so he got an old beat up florist van that said, florist on the side, like in the movies, like a heist movie. And he drove downtown. The only people that knew was his assistant and some security guys that he had coming with him. And he drove to this place and they have you drive into an elevator. It lowers you down below ground, and then you're at this vault where he filled it with cash, and it filled this van with cash. And then he bought 14 Toomey bags, and he packed each of them with $1 million. And he says that it's actually not as heavy as you might think. And so the next day, he has all of his friends come over and held up a map. And he holds up this map and he points to it. And he points to these different places that he's been able to go in the world and all of these things that he's gotten to see because of his friends. And he said, how do you repay people like that? And he said, oh, well, how about $1 million? Now, I know what you're thinking. How can I be George Clooney's friend, right? But, not everyone reacts positively to this story. I mean, believe it or not, Clooney says, I remember talking to one really rich guy who I ran into in a hotel in Vegas. Certainly, he says he was certainly a lot richer than I am. And I remember the story about the cash had just come out. And this guy says to him, he says, why would you do that? And Clooney's response was, why wouldn't you do that? You know what? And you can fill in the blank. But I love that question. Why wouldn't you do that? At a deep level, his response to this man is confronting something. It's pointing to a different way of defining what it means to be wealthy. The gift that he gave his friends was a recognition of what his friends had given him that you really couldn't put a price on. The memories, the help when he needed it most, and the opportunities along the way, and the trips and the traveling, they made his life fuller. Clooney, he had a really strong grasp on at least one of the 4 components that make up a wealthy life. And so, hey, as we continue today in our series, before we really get into it, I just want to up top give us a perspective that is so important. I want to begin by giving us a framework as we think about what it means to live a wealthy life. And let's take a look at 4 components for measuring the wealth of your life. And the first was illustrated so well in this story of George Clooney and his friends, and that is community. Do others care about me? Are there people who know me and I know them, and we'd not only give to one another, but we'd even sacrifice for one another? And then there's spiritual. Do you know God? Am I connected to my Creator and all the spiritual blessings that God gives freely to those who follow him? I believe that is the most important form of wealth. And then significance. Am I living my purpose? Do I know the purpose for my life that God created me for? And then lastly, physical. And this is the one we think of first, but I would argue that it's maybe the least important. This is my material needs, food, shelter, the basic necessities of life. Obviously, we need these things, but we don't need to be consumed by them. Throughout this series, we're going to talk about all of these things, okay? But today, I want to focus in on a specific direction that primarily deals with the physical and the financial. You know, we said this series wasn't going to be all about money, and it's not. Okay, next week, my dad, Pastor Daren, he's going to talk about the power of God at work in our lives to do extraordinary things, which is a great form of wealth. I think this is the only talk that's going to really go deep into how we see our resources. But we have to go there because we live in a material world in one of the most financially wealthy regions, in one of the most wealthy countries in the world. And yet many are struggling to be happy. And I would argue, and this passage that we're going to look at today would tell us that how we view our stuff has a lot to do with it, okay? Materialism is a tendency to consider material possessions and physical comfort as more important than spiritual values. Or another way to put it is materialism is a physical solution to needs that only a spiritual solution can meet. My wife loves watching videos on her Instagram from these different mom blog type accounts that she follows. And, you know, it's kind of funny because now she just has a general term that she uses to describe them. I'll be like, where did this avocado cutter thing come from in the kitchen? And she's like, my influencers. Or what are these organizer things in our fridge? And she's like, my influencers. For decades, we never needed a plastic knife that cuts your avocado and then splices it from the other side. But because influencers are the new infomercials, we have one. And they are so good at convincing my wife that we need lots of little things that you can purchase with the link in the bio. Now, there's a good side. I'm not trying to hate on all the influencers, okay? They can inspire us to get healthier, be more productive, even point to really helpful tools. So let's give them some love. But have you noticed, just in general in our culture, how aggressively we're being marketed to online? And there's a message behind it that my knives aren't sharp enough. My car isn't nice enough. My house isn't organized enough. My body isn't fit enough. The underlying message is you don't have enough, but you will have enough when you have this, or you're not enough without this. And the goal is literally to make you feel discontent with what you have so that you'll want something more, which robs us of the happiness of what we have. The ads are no longer about the products. They're about you and I and what we choose to believe. Are we enough with or without what they're selling? Did you know money affects our marriages and the long-term success of our marriages more than anything, just about anything else, okay? In fact, even if you're single or you're preparing for marriage, you're gonna wanna hear this, okay? According to financial advisor Dave Ramsey, money is the #1 issue that couples fight about. In fact, in a blog, they shared some stats, and check this out. 63% of those with $50,000 or more in debt feel anxious about talking about their personal finances. And almost half, 47% of respondents with consumer debt say their level of debt creates stress and anxiety. If we want to experience the happiness that a wealthy life can bring us, we have to learn to say when enough is enough. How do we grow in gratitude in a world that wants to profit off of our greed? How do we find contentment in a content-saturated culture? How do we develop the willpower to say no when technically we could afford it? See, fortunately for us, the Bible has a lot of wisdom on this subject. And for today's passage, we're going to go to 1 Timothy 6, 9 through 19. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God. The truth is, almost no one sees themselves as wealthy. Everyone tends to look a few levels above them to define it. Did you know that if you make $33,000 a year, you're in the 1% of the wealthiest people in the world? You and 60 million people that are estimated to be in this category of the 1% of the wealthiest in the entire world, which means that you're wealthier than 7 billion people on this planet. And you know, most of us are making more than $33,000 a year. And I know we live in an expensive area here in the Bay Area, so $33,000 is like below the poverty line, but it's just a reference point, right? And I don't think that we even believe it necessarily because we live in this world, but it's crazy to think that just $33,000 a year puts you in the 1% of the wealthiest on the planet. If people from other parts of the world came to your house and they saw your car, or they looked in your fridge, or they saw your Wi-Fi, they'd say, this is incredible wealth. Paul is talking to us. And maybe one of the reasons that greed has such a hold on us as a people is we have such a hard time acknowledging our wealth. If we can't acknowledge how much we have, we'll never be able to say that we have enough. I wonder if you're comfortable enough to say that you're wealthy. See, some of you just need to go ahead and say it out loud. Say, I am wealthy. I have so much more than most. I don't have the most. I don't maybe have more than my neighbors or more than some of my friends, but I have so much to be grateful for. There are 3 things in this passage that Paul teaches us about how to be truly wealthy. And the first one is this. Number 1, if you're taking notes, is to enjoy the blessing of what you have. Enjoy the blessing of what you have. It is good to enjoy what you have. Paul continues, he says, godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and we can take nothing out of it. So if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Contentment is not popular. Like, no one is marketing you to be content. There's no profit in that, okay? But Paul says it's a really good thing to have. When you look at what you have, that lifts your soul. And right now, we're so blessed as a family. We've got an awesome SUV. I love our car. And a friend totally hooked us up with a deal, and it was this awesome experience. And so I don't feel this very much, but at different times with different cars that I've had, I felt discontent. Like, maybe it's time to get a new car. Maybe it's time to start looking around. Maybe, there's good interest rates or whatever. And, every time I start to feel this, you know what I do in the past? What I would do is I would wash my car. I'd clean it up. I'd give it some love. And you know what? It just makes me feel grateful again for the car that I have. Gratitude, however you get there, is rest for your soul. This is a kingdom value that goes completely against American values. Over this Christmas break, we would go on walks because we just needed to get out. And, seeing the beautiful green trees and the leaves on the ground and, being with family, these simple pleasures, if you take the time to enjoy them and to appreciate them, they can make us so happy. Gratitude is a deep breath of fresh air for the soul. In the Psychological Journal, there's an article, and it says that it talks about why aren't richer people more happy? Why aren't they happier people? And this is what it says. Check this out. It says, because money allows us to enjoy the best things in life. We can stay at expensive hotels, eat good sushi, buy nice gadgets. But when we do this, we actually decrease our ability to enjoy the mundane joys of life. Since most of our joys are mundane, we can't sleep at the Ritz every night, our ability to enjoy life actually goes backwards. The solution is to be content. It's gratitude. To learn to enjoy, again, the everyday joys of life. Timothy 6:17, God richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. My daughter Mia got her first scooter for Christmas, and she can barely stay on it, but she loves playing with it. She loves trying to ride it. Check this out. I have a clip.
Hey, you're a doggy?
Yeah, that's a doggy.
Oh.
Okay, show us how you ride your scooter. Do you think Mia is thinking, oh man, I don't deserve this scooter? Like, I shouldn't have too much fun on this thing. I really need to be careful how much fun I have on this because I don't deserve it. Or this scooter is nice, but you know what? I really need an electric scooter or a bigger scooter or a different color scooter. No, she is completely happy. She is completely caught up in the joy of the gift that she's received in this scooter. She's fully embracing the blessing of what she's been given. You know, it just dawned on me that we're not taught to be content. You know, contentment, it's almost natural when we're young. What happens is we're taught to be discontent with the things that we have. This world wants us to be discontent with the things that we have. God wants you to enjoy your stuff. But there's also a warning here, and that is this. Number 2, to see the danger of materialism. As much as I want Mia to enjoy her scooter, I'm still trying to teach her that the street can be a dangerous place to ride. You need to look both ways. And when you start to lose control, you've got to jump off. Like, she literally does this thing when it starts going too fast where she just bails. When she gets scared, you know, she just jumps right off. How do we know when to bail? How do we know when we're at risk of becoming materialistic? You know, Paul, he says to Timothy, those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. And what he's saying here is he's saying, don't make this the primary goal of your life, right? Wall Street Journal had an article titled, "Don't Envy the Super Rich. They're miserable." It's based on a report done by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, 2 very generous people. They know a few wealthy people, right? So they did some research. Researchers did interviews with 120 people with a net worth of $25 million or more. And it said the respondents turn out to be a generally dissatisfied lot whose money has contributed to deep anxieties involving love, work, and family. Indeed, most of them still don't consider themselves financially secure. For that, they say they would require, on average, 1/4 more wealth than they currently possess. These are people with $25 million or more saying that they'll be secure if they have just 25% more. But here's the deal, okay? We're not just picking on the super rich. Whether you have 25 million or 25,000, that's what we all think. And this is the trap that Paul is referring to. If you can't get to a place where your baseline is I have enough, it will plunge you into ruin and destruction. And so next comes really one of the most popular verses and misquoted verses in the Bible. It says, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." For the love of money, not money itself, the love of it. Now, let's get real for a minute here, okay? I have never actually heard someone be like, I love money. Like, nobody says that. But we do say it in different ways, okay? It's usually more like, I really want this thing, And there's a deeper underlying current of like, my happiness depends on getting this thing, or just how much they talk about money in general. Now, here's another question. Have you ever heard someone say, I've got all the money I need? Like, we'd almost think that they're being crazy or they're bragging, right? To say that I've got all the money, all the stuff I need. I'm happy with my salary. My family's good. I wouldn't turn down a raise, but I feel blessed with what I have. You know, what if I told you that you don't have to be super rich to say that? You know, I wonder maybe if you know someone who could totally afford to give away their stimulus check and actually did it. I do, and I think that's amazing. Let's jump back over to our main verse, okay? Our main passage, verse 17. Paul says, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God. Okay, so the first thing that we see here is that Paul's telling us to watch out for arrogance. You know, as you gain wealth, arrogance and pride is a form of pride is going to be a problem. Paul says that pride can actually be magnified by wealth because you look at yourself as better, smarter, or harder working than those who have less than you. I heard a quote this week that was so profound. It was by a famous science fiction writer who started off as a scientist before he got into writing. Check this out. He said, when I was only an expert in physics, I didn't think I knew everything. When I became a good writer, I didn't think I was good at everything. But once I started making money, the temptation was to start thinking I'm an expert at everything. Arrogance is a very honest danger that comes with money. And the second danger is to put our hope in wealth, which is so uncertain. Andy Stanley, a pastor in the Atlanta area, a really wise guy, and he calls this the migration of hope, where your hope migrates from hoping in God and trusting in Him for everything, your provision, your purpose, your future, and slowly it migrates over. And if we're not careful, we start attaching our hope to our stuff, to our status, to our security, and to our accolades. And the next thing you know, your purpose in life starts to revolve around gaining more of these things and protecting them. This is the migration of hope. Someone once said, idols are good things that become God things. And this is the danger of stuff. Okay, when instead of enjoying the blessings of God, I start worshiping the blessings rather than God Himself. In Andy Stanley's book, Be Rich, he gives us a great metaphor. He says if money came in a bottle like medicine, it would come with a label, a warning label that would read, caution, may cause arrogance while taking this medication. Extra caution should be taken not to look down on others. And if taken for a prolonged period of time, may impair perception, causing hope to migrate. So what have we learned so far? Okay, number one, enjoy the blessing of what you have. Number two, see the danger of materialism. And the last thing we learn is to see the purpose of what we have. Number three, see the purpose of what we have. I bet we've all met at least one or two people in our lives who are really good at living a wealthy life. Like maybe they even have a lot. They have a lot, but they're humble. They're not arrogant. They don't talk down to others. They don't presume to know it all. They ask questions. They're generous. They freely give from what they have. They own stuff, but stuff doesn't own them. What is their secret? How come the medicine of money isn't poisoning them like it's poisoning some other people? Well, on purpose or maybe intuitively, they're following Paul's teaching. Look at what Paul says. He says, command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasures for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. This is a life where everything we have is doing for us what we hoped that it would do. We're happier, we're content, we're joyful, we're at peace, we're free. When we see the purpose of our wealth and when we take action with it, we experience the full vision of a wealthy life. And so how can we be purposeful with our generosity? I want to get really practical because it's one thing to be motivated or inspired to be generous, but it's another thing to follow through with our actions. If you're taking notes, you can write this down. Purposeful giving is first prioritized. You make it a priority in your life. But before he ever decided to follow God, my great-grandfather, Grandpa Rice, he believed in God. Did you know you can believe in God before you follow him? In fact, one of the ways that I know that he believed that God was really believed in his existence is because before he even decided that he was ready to commit to Jesus and to give his life to God, he gave a tithe to God. He tithed to a local church 10% of his income before he even decided that he wanted to give over his life. Now let me pause for a minute and clear something up, okay? Because over the years, I've heard a lot of Christians rationalize their way out of tithing because they say that it isn't in the New Testament. Here's the thing. They're right. Tithing is an Old Testament requirement, but it's a New Testament starting point. Jesus calls us to be way more generous than a tithe. My great-grandpa, he was a truly generous man, and so was my grandma. And they lived in such a way that they could give 10% as a baseline and then save and live off of the rest. Now, some people have that gift, whether they're a Christian or not. For some, giving as a priority comes naturally. But whether it comes naturally or not, it's the only path to a truly wealthy life. Next, purposeful giving is proportionate to your income. It's a percentage, not just a leftover. Okay, you might ask, well, what percent should I give? I would say start at 1%. If you gather with us regularly and you give to God through Brave Church, I wonder if you know what percent of your income you give monthly. One of the ways that we measure the health of our church is units of giving. Now, this isn't how many people give a lot or how much someone gives or how much comes in. What we want to know is based on how many people are attending or watching weekly, what percent are giving any amount, right? Like even $1. We said this at the beginning of our series last week that this isn't a giving series to get, okay? It's not a giving series to raise the finances of the church. We aren't trying to get something from you. We want something for you. And I think this talk has been clear. I hope you're hearing my heart. I hope you're hearing God's heart for you in this. But as a shepherd, I do need to say something. We could be healthier as a community in this area. The percentage of people that give nothing compared to how many people are attending or call Brave Church their family and are a part of this community isn't what it could be. And I don't say that to discourage us or to guilt anyone, but to challenge you. Where your treasure is, your heart will be also. And so start somewhere, even if it's 1%, or start with how much you spend on your media subscriptions or your gym membership. Well, don't start there, okay, because that should be 0 right now. But start with how much you spend on your coffee. To live a wealthy life, giving must be a priority. And lastly, it's planned. I think a lot of the time when people are asked to give or challenged to give or even hear a teaching on this subject, and hopefully you're still watching because I can't see you if you've left the room, but I think a lot of the tension comes because most people don't approach their giving in an intentional way. Most people approach it the opposite. It's like an extra bill that they weren't expecting that they got asked to pay, or they give spontaneously, and that can be fun but also stressful because you can't always prepare for it. When our giving is spontaneous or random or whatever's left over, that's not a happy place to give from. That's stressful. It feels guilty. It feels coerced. For some of us, experiencing the joy of giving means that we've got some homework to do. And I think this is for everyone, but if you really want to live a wealthier life in 2021, if you want to grow in this area and really experience what God wants for you, consider the priorities of your giving. Consider the proportion of your income that you're giving, and consider what plan you need to create to move from nothing to something to generosity. Maybe you've heard the quote, too busy not to pray. Well, here's a new one, too blessed not to give. Because the truth is we are too blessed not to give. We're in the 1%. If we're not giving, we're the opposite of that. We're struggling with greed. And you know how almost everyone watching right now can know that they're a part of this 1%? Because 99% of those watching, and by the way, if you're struggling, let me be clear, if you're struggling, I don't mean to be insensitive. That's what Brave Compassion is for. And that's actually why others need to give so that we can help you. But 99% of those watching right now, I know can skip a Starbucks to be generous. The kind of generosity that is enriching and fun and life-giving is planned, it's prioritized, it's proportionate, it's a lifestyle. When you've got a giving plan, it never feels like you're being guilted or pressured because you planned for it. It's part of who you are and who your family is. Doesn't that sound amazing? Let me end with this. Let me just see a quick show of hands. One more story. Quick show of hands if you've ever had buyer's remorse, like you've ever felt like you just made a bad mistake when you bought something. I have a lot of times, but there's one that's probably the biggest one I've ever experienced, okay? I got obsessed right around my 30th birthday. I'm 33 now, so 3 years ago, of getting a bicycle. I wanted to get this bike at this bike shop called Mission Bikes, and I was just obsessed with this bike. They had like a web page where you could build your own bike and create it, and so I was like texting photos of this bike that I made, that I created, and telling everyone for my 30th, like, if you want to give me money towards this bike, this is what I want to get. And then my car broke down, and it was going to cost a lot to fix it. And so I just ended up selling it. And I told my family, I'm like, you know what? I don't even need to get another car. I'll save so much money if I get this bike. Like, it's an expensive bike, but I can justify it because I'm not going to be paying for gas. I'm not going to be paying insurance and all this stuff. And so I got the bike. And I was so excited, right? But here's what happened. In like a 2 to 3 year period, I rode that bike like 3 times. And now in my defense, we were living at the top of a hill. We were living with my parents, saving money. And so it was I didn't anticipate, like, you've got to wear a helmet. You got to do your hair when you get to wherever you're going. You're going to be sweaty. You're going to ride up and down these hills. And I really didn't think it through, okay? My wife was so mad, that I never rode this bike. And I really just bummed rides off of everyone that I knew. And I still kind of do that. But my wife was so mad. And so now, it took a pandemic and us being stuck at home for me to start riding my bike places. And so now I send her a photo every time I ride it. Like, I send her a photo of it, locked up at the, on the little bike lock thing and all this stuff. But here's the deal, okay? Here's the bottom line. And I'll end with this. As many times as I've had buyer's remorse, as many times as I bought something and thought, oh man, I shouldn't have spent my money that way, I've never had giver's remorse. I've never regretted the money that I've given to support our church, to support friends in need, to support building projects, community events. I've never thought, why did I give to fight sex trafficking and rescuing young girls? Why did I give to helping people that need groceries or that lost their job, or helping single moms with their rent? I've never regretted a single dollar that I've given that helps people find and follow Jesus, because I trust God with my treasure. Where do you place your trust? Maybe you're not sure if you trust God. Well, ask yourself, what are you willing to give up? So the truth is, most of us will give up God pretty quickly, but not money and stuff. For most of us, that's way up on the list. That's like, nope, not giving that away. When the world tells you that you need a new this or a new that or a better whatever, can you trust in the life that you've been given and all that the Lord has provided for you? God is a giver. We give because God first gave to us. He doesn't take away from us. He only gives. He sent his son to give to everyone who owed him. We give in response to the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is our deepest motivation for giving. We give to God because he first gave to us. If you bow your heads with me, I want to close in prayer. Maybe your hope has migrated. And maybe this morning or this evening or whenever you're watching this is a wake-up call that you need to bring your hope back and your trust back to God. Or maybe you never completely trusted in God and you want to agree in your heart right now with this prayer that, God, I need you. I need to place my trust in something greater. I need to place my trust in my Creator. I need to place my trust and all that I have and all that I need and all of my wants and dreams and desires in the hands of the most generous being ever that gave me life. And I don't know what everything means right now. I don't know fully what it means to follow you, but I want to learn to follow you, to give my life to you for the rest of my days. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, if you made that decision, just go to brave.church/follow Jesus. We would love to follow up with you. God bless. Hey, thanks for watching today. We hope that this week's talk really encouraged you to live a wealthier life, a fuller life, a richer life. Before we go, I want to tell you about something new that we are dropping on Tuesday, and that is a podcast that we created called the Better Leader Podcast. It's really an outflow of the vision that God has given us during this time where we have seen so much chaos and so much confusion. And really what it comes down to is every single one of us is a leader. Whether you see yourself as a leader or not, you have influence, and leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And so the better we are at stewarding that influence, the better we lead our families, the better we lead in our workplaces, and the better we can become at leading people to Jesus. And so that's our heart behind this. We hope that it helps you, encourages you, whether you're working for a tech company, in real estate, a work from home mom. We think that this podcast is really going to be a great space for us to grow in how we use our influence to better our world and to better the lives of the people around us. We'll see you guys this Tuesday. You can look forward to that. It'll be on all platforms, including our YouTube channel.